Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of WYTPod, the digital community for e-commerce entrepreneurs. And today we have a special guest. He is the founder of Elite Commerce Group, and his name is Eric Martindale. Eric, thanks a lot for joining us today. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I am busy but well.
Good stuff. Well, Eric, I think we'll go ahead and just jump right in. And if you'd like, maybe you can share a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I probably have an atypical start in e-commerce. I spent almost 20 years in the Marine Corps, got out as a major in the Marine Corps, and I got an MBA at my last command. I knew somehow I wanted to be involved in commerce, if that makes sense. I wanted to buy and sell. There was something about that was always kind of thrilling to me. And in addition, I think most people might be surprised at how tech intensive it can be in the military. Especially on the battlefield where you're integrating, satellite assets and air and sophisticated communications and weaponry. And so technology always made sense to me. The military is always in a bit of a tech race. So I think that influenced me in a way as well. And long story short, I got involved in an import contract, and by the terms of that contract, I had to move a certain amount of product. I was having a hard time doing it. I was still by myself at the time, didn't have a team, and I turned to Amazon. That went well, needless to say. And, that was back in the early days of, I had already been messing around on Amazon a bit, but, when I really needed it and leaned on it, it worked. And I was fascinated with, how technical it was even at the time, and how, the various algorithms worked together and how you could influence them, and just started pushing forward into e-commerce, started building a team, and here we are.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah, it makes total sense. Military runs on technology, obviously.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to actually start an e-commerce management business?
That's a good question. That is not what I intended to do. When I started getting into e-commerce, I was buying and selling. And then even as I built a team, we were buying and selling. And, we were what you would call a reseller. And in some ways we still resell, usually by agreement now. But initially, I think our first managed account was an account owner, or that came from an account owner that had reached out to us. We focused to food and grocery. We're in a number of categories now, but by far most of our brands are in food and grocery. And we're reached out to by a brand maybe 5 years ago, something like that. And I said no several times, and ended up really kind of came to really like the guy, the owner, and he has done well. He's got a massive business today. Young guy, he's become a good friend of mine. We still manage that account, and I didn't think I would take another one, and then they just started to kind of come. So they were either referrals, or we had another couple that reached out to us just because of our presence on Amazon and food and grocery. And then, we don't sell aggressively actually, but we have a few affiliate programs. So we basically sell passively through affiliates, and that's how we've grown. So
wow.
I don't desire.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't desire to have 250 accounts. I would rather have a lower number that where we manage them very, very well and really help them to scale.
Sure. So it sounds like quite an organic sort of evolution that got you here today. And what would you say obviously you're not the only ones doing it out there. So what would you say separates your service offerings from the competition's?
Technology, I think that's our focus. So, and I think a lot of some of the other agencies out there, I'm not one of those guys that's going to sit here and and tell you shouldn't go with, other agencies. I refer to other agencies when I think that's the right move. There's an agency where I know very well 3 of the founders. But for us, and we're really good at, I think our sweet spot is companies that want to scale aggressively, and that means something. That you don't just say I want to scale aggressively. There are some challenges that come along with that.
Sure.
But we're very good at that. And when I say technology, I don't think we're anywhere close to letting machines manage Amazon or marketplace selling. But what we try to do is use humans and then automate everything that we can in a way that gives our brands an advantage over the next brand, like outbidding or manipulating bids throughout the day, where I don't have to have a person to make 50 bid changes in a day. I'll have a programming solution to do that. So I think that's what makes us a little bit different than a lot of the other agencies.
All right, good stuff. And finally, Eric, what advice would you give to anyone who's just getting started in the e-commerce game?
As a brand?
Yes.
That is a great question. There's probably a couple things I can throw out there. One is Amazon is competitive now, so focus on building the brand and plan on giving it some time. Unless you've come in with very, very, very deep pockets, it is still very lucrative. There are still plenty of brands making, profit. So, plan on it being playing the long game, and plan on it being competitive. So it's not mailbox money. It was at one time, or close to it. It's not anymore. The other thing I would say is Amazon is the 900-pound gorilla in the room, but don't miss the frontiers. And if I were to put that in context for you, I would say that if you looked at, say, Instagram 12 years ago, the baby boomer generation, the ones that were really, the execs at big companies like Nike and Heinz and Pepsi, they largely ignored Instagram and even Amazon. And so they missed out. It was the millennials who came in, they understood that technology. They grew up on it, and they played into it, and they kind of won. Well, now big brands are leveraging Instagram, and everybody from The Rock to Nike and everybody else is all over Instagram and Amazon now. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a frontier at this point. However, if I were to say, I think one of the next frontiers is going to be metaverse selling. Whenever I say that, I get the same thing every time. I wouldn't do commerce, or I would buy things in the metaverse, or that's never going to catch on. And so we're saying the exact same things that the baby boomers said about Instagram. And the reality is, it doesn't matter whatever these frontiers are. It doesn't matter if I prefer to shop there. It's what does Gen Z prefer to do, or what is the younger generation that's just about to come into their own in terms of spending. So sure. I think everybody should be experimenting when they can with these new e-commerce frontiers.
That's what everyone said about Bitcoin too. Look how big that is. Yeah, fascinating stuff, Eric. And all of you out there, there is some amazing content at elitecommercegroup.com. Contact details are in the comments. And be sure and have a look there. Eric, thanks a lot for joining us today. It was informative, and it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. See you, Mark.